Who did it?
Yeah, I knew who did it shortly after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are now where?
Oh, the guy who actually shot me is dead.
I remember Preem coming to the block one day, try to like sun 50 and rub his head.
May 24th, 2000, South Jamaica, Queens. The morning looked calm, almost peaceful, but that silence carried a strange tension, the kind that whispers trouble's coming. For Curtis Jackson, it was supposed to be a regular day back in the neighborhood, stopping by his grandmother's house, a spot that once felt untouchable, sacred even. But that sense of safety, it vanished in a blink. As he stepped out heading toward a friend's car, the calm cracked wide open. A man emerged from a parked ride, face cold, eyes locked. No threats, no talk, just the sharp pull of a trigger and the roar of a gun tearing through the morning air. 9 shots rang out. The first few tore through flesh before his body even hit the pavement. One smashed into his hand, another ripped into his hip, another slid past his chest. Each one a reminder that this wasn't just an attack, it was an execution attempt. The final shot, and the one that changed everything, entered through his left cheek and blew out through his jaw, leaving his face shattered and his future uncertain. Neighbors shouted, doors swung open, panic filled the block. The shooter sped off, disappearing into the same silence that started it all. And there lay Curtis Jackson, bleeding, fading, caught between life and death. His body broken, but his will refusing to give in. Word traveled through Queens like wildfire. Yo, they got 50, where the phrase echoed through payphones, barbershops, and corner stores, shaking the whole neighborhood. This wasn't just another headline about street violence, it was personal. Curtis Jackson wasn't just any rapper. He was the one bold enough to drop names in his tracks, to speak the kind of truth that most people whispered about. A local later said he was too real for his own good. Ghetto Quran named names, real dudes, Supreme's people. That record was suicide. Those words hit hard because everyone knew exactly who he was talking about. Kenneth Supreme McGriff, the kingpin of the Supreme team, a name that still carried weight and fear across South Jamaica.
I remember Preem coming to the block one day and try to like sun 50 and rub his head.
You know what 50 did? Yeah, man.
We're back, yeah.
Yeah, man.
That was the day I know Preem didn't like 50.
In Ghetto Quran, 50 didn't just rap, he documented the streets. He spoke on the dealers, the enforcers, the hierarchy that ran the city's underbelly. It wasn't a diss track, it was a street memoir. And in that world, exposing the wrong details could cost you everything. Investigators later tied the shooting to McGriff's circle. The man believed to have pulled the trigger was Daryl Hamo Baum, a Brooklyn name with serious reputation, and ironically a close friend of boxing legend Mike Tyson.
If no one can stop me, Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander, he's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody to ruthless. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. Mike, was that your shortest fight ever? I bear witness there's only one God, and Muhammad, blessings and peace be upon him, is his prophet. I dedicate this fight to my brother, Daryl Baum, who died.
But in a twist that made the streets buzz even louder, Baum was killed just 3 weeks later, his silence sealing the story even deeper. No one was ever charged, no closure, no justice, just rumors, fear, and the unshakable truth that in Queens, speaking too loud could get you silenced forever. When Curtis finally woke up, he was barely recognizable, jaw wired shut, tubes snaking through his nose, every breath slicing through him like fire. His face was swollen, his body stitched and plated with metal in his arm and cheek. He couldn't chew, couldn't even speak properly. For weeks, his meals were nothing but liquids, sipped slow through a straw while pain became his new normal. The mirror didn't lie. He looked like a ghost of himself. His weight had dropped to just 118 pounds when doctors finally cleared him to leave the hospital. Every step felt like a battle, every whisper a reminder that he was still here, barely but alive. I was messed up, he later admitted. I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I thought it was over. Those words carried the weight of a man who'd seen death and looked it right in the face. But fate had other plans. That day didn't mark the end, it marked the beginning of a transformation. The pain didn't break him, it rebuilt him. This wasn't just survival, it was a rebirth, forged in bullets and willpower. Columbia Records, the label that had just inked his big deal, went into full panic mode. Executives saw the headlines, the 9 gunshots, the street whispers, and decided he was too hot to handle. In their eyes, Curtis Jackson wasn't just an artist anymore. He was a liability. Within weeks, the same label that promised him a future cut him loose like he never existed. Suddenly, every door in the industry slammed shut. Studios stopped calling, producers went silent, and radio stations acted like they'd never heard his name. Nobody wanted to risk it. Nobody wanted a man who might drag the streets right into the booth. So 50 did what survivors do. He disappeared into the shadows and rebuilt from scratch. He crossed into Canada, keeping things quiet, moving with precision. There, alongside his team, the Money Team, later known as G Unit, he locked himself in the studio and got to work. Track after track, night after night, he recorded with hunger and purpose. Over 30 songs poured out in just a few months. Raw, fearless, and unfiltered. Those tapes would soon flood the New York streets, redefining the mixtape game and setting the stage for one of the greatest comebacks hip-hop had ever seen. Recovery went way beyond healing bones. It was mental, emotional, and spiritual. The bullet that ripped through his jaw didn't just scar his face. It rewired his sound forever. His voice came back different, rough, heavy, and low, carrying that gritty mix of pain and power. It wasn't just a voice anymore, it was a warning. Every word he spoke had weight, that slow, husky tone that made even silence feel dangerous. People started saying, he sounds like someone who's already seen death, and they weren't wrong. He had. That calmness in his delivery, that cold control made listeners lean in closer, like he knew something the rest of the world didn't. Even Eminem caught it right away. His voice had this calm menace, M said, like he wasn't scared anymore. And that change, it became his deadliest weapon. In a rap scene full of loud talkers and fake bravado, 50's quiet confidence hit harder than any gunshot. He poured that same energy into his body. Day after day, weights running, shadow boxing, the man trained like a soldier. I was building a new body, he said later. If I was gonna live, I had to be stronger than before. Every rep, every drop of sweat was revenge in motion, the making of a man who refused to stay broken. By 2002, the streets of New York were echoing one name again, 50 Cent. His mixtape, Guess Who's Back, hit the block like a bomb, a loud declaration that he had survived what should have buried him. Every track dripped with hunger, pain, and payback. It wasn't just music, it was a statement that he was still breathing and ready for war. That raw energy reached Eminem, who couldn't believe what he was hearing. The authenticity, the tone, the story. It was too real to ignore. M couldn't keep it to himself, so he took it straight to Dr. Dre. I said, yo, this dude got shot 9 times and he's still here. He sounds hungry, Eminem recalled with excitement. That was all Dre needed to hear. The fire, the truth, the grit. Soon after, 50 was on a plane to Los Angeles, walking into the Interscope offices where M and Dre were waiting. The meeting wasn't just business, it was destiny. They handed him a deal worth $1 million with Shady Aftermath, sealing his comeback in ink and legend. The same man the industry had once blacklisted was now the hottest name in hip-hop, living proof that you can't silence what was born to rise. When Get Rich or Die Trying dropped in February 2003, it wasn't just an album, it was a war cry. The cover alone said everything. 50 Cent standing strong behind shattered glass, symbolizing the 9 bullets that failed to take him out. It wasn't about glamour, it was about survival, pain, and power. Then came In Da Club, the track that blew the roof off the industry. It was more than a party anthem. It was a victory lap from a man who cheated death. The world danced to a song written by someone who had every reason not to be here. That's what made it hit so hard. But underneath the success was something darker, something real. On Many Men Wish Death, 50 laid it all bare. Many men wish death upon me, blood in my eye, dog, and I can't see. That wasn't just a lyric. It was a confession from someone haunted by survival. Every bar dripped with trauma. Every beat sounded like the echo of gunfire and hospital monitors. In its first week, the album sold a staggering 870,000 copies, climbing all the way to 9 times platinum. Critics compared it to Illmatic, raw, fearless, and deeply personal. But for 50, it wasn't about critics or trophies. It was about standing tall when everyone expected him to fall. He didn't just get rich, he proved he could live when others prayed he wouldn't. What made 50 Cent stand out wasn't just that he got shot 9 times, it was the way he owned every scar. Most rappers would have buried that pain, tried to hide it behind fame and filters. But 50, he flipped it into his superpower. He turned trauma into triumph, walking proof that nothing, not bullets, not betrayal, could stop him. He talked about it everywhere too. In interviews, he'd laugh about the past like it didn't break him, only built him stronger. On tracks, he turned pain into punchlines, danger into identity. It wasn't an act, it was real life survival turned into art. He turned the bullet wounds into branding, bulletproof vests, G-Unit gear, the whole image, said his former manager, Shaw Money XL. That look, that energy, it became his trademark. Fans didn't just see a rapper, they saw a warrior who lived through the fire and came back untouchable. Even the name G-Unit, short for Guerrilla Unit, told the story loud and clear. It was about strength, loyalty, and that never back down mentality. To the streets, 50 wasn't just a survivor, he was a symbol of what happens when pain becomes power. Eminem once said he was fearless. After what happened, nothing rattled him. You could tell he'd been through real pain, and he was right. That kind of calm only comes from surviving chaos. Dr. Dre felt it too. His story was cinematic. When he stepped in the booth, you felt the truth. You can't fake that every verse 50 laid down carried that raw energy. No gimmicks, no acting, just real life poured through the mic. Tony Yayo from G-Unit remembered the moment vividly. When we first saw him after the shooting, he still had the scars, the jaw wired up, but his energy crazy. He was like, yo, we gonna get rich or die trying. We believed him. That wasn't just a phrase, it was prophecy. The authenticity was magnetic. Fans didn't just vibe with the music, and they felt it. They believed every word because 50 wasn't rapping from imagination. He was speaking from survival. His pain became purpose, and that made his story impossible to ignore. The shooting didn't just change 50 Cent's life, it rewired his entire mindset. After coming that close to death, he started seeing everything differently. Life became one long hustle, he said, and he meant it. From that moment on, survival wasn't just about staying alive, it was about owning every move. He started studying the game behind the game, contracts, investments, branding, treating business like street survival. Every dollar, every deal, every signature mattered. He wasn't just making music anymore, he was building an empire. In the years that followed, he launched G-Unit Records, signing heavy hitters like The Game, Lloyd Banks, and Young Buck, turning his crew into a global brand. Then came the G-Unit Clothing Company, a streetwear empire that made fans feel part of the movement. And when he teamed up with Vitamin Water, that move shocked the business world, earning him tens of millions and proving his mind was just as sharp as his lyrics. The kid from South Jamaica, Queens, had turned into a business mogul, using the same ruthless focus that once kept him alive to now conquer boardrooms instead of block corners. In 2005, 50 Cent took his legend from the streets to the big screen with Get Rich or Die Trying. This wasn't just another Hollywood biopic, it was his life story, raw and unfiltered, brought to life by the man himself. He played his own role, the hustler turned rapper who gets shot 9 times and refuses to die. The film blurred the line between fact and fiction, but the emotion, 100% real. Every scene carried the same weight as his scars, the pain, the hunger, the rise from nothing. You could feel the truth bleeding through the screen. Audiences didn't just watch a movie, they witnessed a resurrection. They saw more than a rapper. They saw a man who had faced death head on and walked back out stronger, living proof that some stories can't be killed, only retold louder. After the shooting, something inside 50 Cent shifted forever. Fear disappeared. He'd tell Rolling Stone, when you've been that close to death, nothing else scares you. And he meant every word. I started moving like a man who had nothing to lose, and that's when I really started winning. That mindset became his armor. You could see it in his eyes, hear it in his tone, feel it in his presence. His monotone delivery wasn't cold, it was controlled. His slow, deliberate walk spoke louder than any lyric. He didn't fake confidence, he was confidence. There was no act, no mask, just raw survival molded into dominance. That fearless energy bled into everything: the music, the interviews, the business deals. He operated like someone who'd already faced the worst and refused to bow again. The world wasn't just hearing 50 Cent, it was witnessing what happens when a man turns trauma into triumph. The bullets that were meant to silence him ended up making him immortal. The one that shattered his jaw gave him that iconic voice the world would never forget. The label that dropped him had to watch him rise to the top of an industry they were too scared to stand beside. And those same streets that once tried to take his life, they had no choice but to bow down, because the man they tried to bury came back wearing the crown. Even now, decades later, the legend of 50 Cent's 9 shots still echoes through hip-hop history. His story isn't just remembered, it's studied, quoted, and immortalized. Young rappers mention his name like a badge of survival, proof that pain can build power. Documentaries replay his rise as modern folklore, a tale that reminds everyone what it really means to overcome the odds. But underneath all the headlines and street talk, this story isn't just about violence, it's about transformation. It's about how one man took tragedy and flipped it into triumph, how he turned pain into empire. Every time I get shot, I get stronger, he once said, and the world didn't doubt it for a second. Walk through South Jamaica today and you'll see how much has changed. The cracked sidewalks are cleaner, the old houses replaced by new apartments, but the memory still lives loud. Locals can point to the exact spot, their voices filled with pride and disbelief. That's where 50 got hit. That's where he became bulletproof. Because on May 24th, 2000, Curtis Jackson didn't just survive 9 bullets, he was reborn through them. From that moment on, he stopped running from death and started walking beside it, fearless and unshakable. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below. And I'll catch you on the next one.